And welcome to our annual Athletic Awareness Night. It's good to see so many people. Before we start, my name is Angelo Fantasia. I'm the Director of Athletics for the Timberlane Regional School District. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to go through some of the quick highlights. I know that when you signed up for our athletic programs, you signed up and said you agree, and I'm a parent as well, so I'm talking to the parents right now. I always tell our kids, when you sign that you agree with something or that you've read something, might be a good idea to read it before you sign it. You are expected to pass all of your classes that you take in the previous quarter. And when we say previous quarter, you have to understand that every quarter means something. Right now, I tell the kids and adults all the time, right now the fourth quarter report card is determining whether or not you can play in the fall. And your first quarter report card is going to determine, when I check that, it's going to determine whether or not you can play in the winter. Second quarter report card is huge. It's going to determine whether or not you can stay on those winter teams and whether or not you can try out for a spring team. And the third quarter is going to determine whether or not you can stay on that spring team. There's another component to our eligibility, and that is that you also have to earn a minimum number of credits. So when I'm checking grades, I'm not just checking if you passed, I'm also checking your credit accumulation. So beginning in grade 10, you should have accumulated at least 5 credits. That's the minimum. Grade 11, 10 credits. Grade 12, 16 credits, so that you're on track to graduate. We talk about expectations all the time, and just quickly on attendance. I need people to understand the expectations are very simple with me. You come to school on time, go to your classes, and be productive. Period. You are expected to be in your classes on time. Now, one of the things that these coaches get every single day is they're going to get an attendance report from my secretary on your performance attendance-wise. If you're not in school, they know. You're late to class, they know. Whatever it is, they know. What they're hoping for each and every day is a nice blank sheet of paper. It'll say boys soccer with nothing on it. That means everybody was where they were supposed to be all day long, and they did what they were supposed to do. Okay? And what I'm telling people is, right now you have complete control and authority on what happens to you. And as parents, we say this to our kids all the time. You have the control. You go to school, you do the job, no problem. You give up that control and authority when you're not going to class. You run the risk of the coach or the athletic director saying, you're not playing today. You give up that authority when you don't come to school. You can't play that day. Keep the control and authority by just doing the things that you're supposed to do. Okay? I do realize that things come up. And what I'm trying to teach you to do is be proactive. You got a doctor's appointment. Some of you down the road are going to have college visit. Whatever it is. We would like to know that ahead of time. Be proactive. And the kids have been great. Parents, your kids have been great on this. Hey, Mr. Fantasia, just so you know, next Tuesday I've got a college visit. I'm coming back with a note from the college in the form. I've already talked to the guidance department. Are we okay? We're fabulous. That's what we're trying to teach you. We're trying to teach you to be proactive and responsible for yourself. We're fabulous. What we don't want to happen is 2 minutes before the game, you show up and say, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I wasn't in school today. That's a problem. That's a problem, because you're here for school first. We're going to talk just a little bit about this, and I just threw up some of the rules that are already in the handbook. I like to talk about this more from the decision-making standpoint that you do. People say to me, well, you know, is it 20% of the season if I get caught with alcohol? Is it 10% if I'm at the party but I don't have any alcohol? Listen, it's about decisions that you make. And every parent in this room, just like me, we worry when you leave the house until you come home. That's what we do. It's about decisions. And I've had some great conversation with kids in the last several years. So, you know, you look at that and you say, well, 20%, I don't know how many games I have. It could be 3 games. It could be. Listen, it is what it is. Whether it's a championship game, regular season game, or whatever it is. If you're willing to risk it by making those decisions, then you're willing to sit out the championship game. Because the rule's going to be the same no matter what the date is and no matter what the sport is. But I want to go back to, it's about decisions. Do you want to be an athlete? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to be a good role model? And do you want to represent this whole family the right way? Then you're smart enough to deal with that the right way. I met with captains all week long, and we talked about scenarios and we talked about different things. And the fact is this: you guys know far more than we as adults. You know that. You know what party you belong at. You know where you're supposed to be. You have to make that decision, and you have to make the right one. I am not driving around the community looking for parties, but I guarantee you, just like every other parent here, we find out everything. And if it comes across my desk, I'm dealing with it. And if you tell me, well, Mr. Fantasia, I was at the party, but I wasn't drinking, so you really shouldn't be punishing me at all, I'm going to say, first of all, you are punished, first of all. And second of all, let's ask you just a couple of quick questions. Number one, you're at the party, you're not drinking, and there's a knock on the door. You going to be fine if I'm your father and it's me at the other side of the door? You going to be happy with that? Dad, come on in? I don't think so. No kid has told me they'd be fine with that. Another thing I asked is, a lot of you have younger siblings, nephews, nieces, brothers, sisters. Would you bring them and expose them to where you're going? Oh, no, Mr. Fantasia, I wouldn't do that. Then why are you going? Why are you going? And the last scenario that I give people is this: there's alcohol, there's drugs, there's whatever. Can you guarantee me, even if you're not doing anything, can you guarantee me that nothing bad is going to happen at that party? Can you guarantee me? Can you guarantee me that everybody will be safe? No, you can't. If you know something, then my suggestion is, let's be a leader and let's bring people to my house. Come, go to this kid's house. Let's do positive things instead of negative things. Let's stay here and celebrate each other. That's what we should be doing. Next slide. Last year, we went to a training called Life of an Athlete. And there were a few slides that really resonated with coaches and kids when we went to this training. This was a slide that was shown. It was from a UCLA study. And this is the slide, according to John Underwood, who is the founder of Life of an Athlete. This is the slide that shows, and you can see the brain in its different stages, and I am not a doctor in any way, shape, or form, but even I can see that the brain is changing from 5 years old all the way into your 20s. And according to John Underwood, this is the slide that convinced everybody to move the drinking age from 18 to 21. And John Underwood also says that because of this slide, it will never go back. It will never go back. So I thought that was a pretty powerful slide, and I wanted to keep that in there. Next slide, please. This slide might resonate with you as athletes because, again, Life of an Athlete is all about, they're at Lake Placid, New York, running studies on Olympic athletes. No offense to any of you here, but we don't have a lot of Olympic athletes right here. They're running studies on Olympic-level athletes, Division I college athletes. And they're finding how the effects of alcohol, drugs, or anything like that will have on your athletic performance. And this slide basically says, one episode of being drunk takes away 14 days of training. So to all of you in here, we're on week 2 of preseason. We're getting ready to get going. That would be like wiping out the whole preseason. Now, John Underwood goes on to say that, yes, you could go out and play. You will go out and play. You'll run up and down. You may even have a decent game. But you will not reach your maximum performance potential for a minimum of 14 days. Is that what you really want to do? Again, I go back to the word decisions. It's about decisions. What do you want to do? If this is what you want to do, then don't complain about your performance, because you had the power and control and you gave it up. Just a quick rule here that this is an NHIA rule. It's a non-school competition rule, and I'm paraphrasing the rule. But you need to understand that right now you are Timberlane athletes playing for the high school. That is your number one priority in terms of sports. Not in terms of family or anything like that, in terms of sports. You cannot miss one of our practices, games, or events for an outside team or a clinic or a combine. You can't come to the coach, and coaches know this because I've told them 1,000 times, they have absolutely zero authority when it comes to this rule. So don't go to the coach and say, listen, coach, I got another team that I play for, and I'm going to miss practice because we got a big game. They aren't even allowed to say it's okay. It's not in their level. It's in my level. Okay, and understand that the consequences are pretty severe. 3 weeks or 4 games, whichever is greater for a first offense. A second offense, and you are out for the year. Again, control, power, and authority. You've made a commitment for the next 2 months or so to be here. I'm not saying you can't do other things, but this is your priority, period. At this time, I'm going to introduce everybody's favorite trainer. But what I'm asking Christine to do is just take a minute, introduce herself. So we have some younger kids, younger parents. Make sure that they know who she is, what her roles and responsibilities are here as an athletic trainer. So Christine, please.
Thank you, guys. All right, I'm the contracted athletic trainer here. I'm here supposed to be here 20 hours a week. I'm probably here more than that. But I'm here, I cover all the home games, all the practices, and I travel with the varsity football team. I take care of I take care of all the injuries, whether it be minor sprains and strains to concussions. Which brings me to my next slide. Next slide, Dean. Okay. I'm just going to talk a little bit about concussions. Concussion is defined as a complex pathophysiological process affecting the brain induced by a traumatic biomechanical force. Essentially, it's when you hit your head or get hit and your head kind of flings backwards. Or your brain moves in your head. So really what it is if you think of your head and brain as a snow globe, it's if you shake the snow globe and all the snow is going around, that's what's going on in your brain when you get a concussion. It's all the chemicals and enzymes are going kind of nuts and kind of, you're not feeling right. So some of the signs and symptoms include headache, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, balance issues, not feeling right, sleeping disturbances, and that could be either sleeping way more than you usually do or not sleeping at all. Irritability, it's really a software problem, not a hardware problem, so it's not necessarily a bruise on your brain. Like I said before, it's all the chemicals and the enzymes in your brain that are affected. We do baseline testing, use the impact test, and every freshman and junior this year took it. It's a computerized test, test your cognitive thought process, reasoning, and reaction time. And we baseline test all the contact sports, so both soccer's, football, and cheering were all in field hockey. We're all tested this fall. And then there's return to play, which there's a whole process involved with that. So I'm going to hand this over.
As you can see, Christine loves when I give her the microphone. Good job. One of the things before we go to the concussion talk a little bit deeper, before we do that, I tell people this all the time. Christine is the final say, and I'm not just talking about concussion. We have an injury, and out on the sidelines or out at the game, and Christine is there to assess the situation. If Christine says that's it, shutting it down today, not playing. That's it. I do not tell Christine, no, I think you're wrong, let the kid play. The coaches don't do that, and the parents don't do that. Okay, that's a tough thing to do. That's what they're trained to do. Final say goes to Christine. And I understand, as kids, we always want to play. We want to get back in the game. It's our job as adults to make sure that you're safe. And when in doubt, we're going to sit you out. There's always another game. There's always something else to do. But you have to understand, it's her decision. I will back that 100%. Please do not come over to me and say, hey, Mr. Fantasia, I think she's wrong. Well, if she is, kid's still sitting out. When in doubt, we're going to take that precaution. One of the important things that we really need to discuss with you tonight is effective August 17th of this year is a new concussion law, SB 402. And I'm going to ask in a second, I'm going to ask Ms. Jennifer Hogg of Northeast Rehab to come up here and help articulate this slide and a few other things. But I just need people to understand that anytime you're talking about an injury, especially a brain injury, which that is what a concussion is, it's a very individualized condition. I have people ask me all the time, they say, hey, I thought you said my kid had a concussion. I thought you said it was 5 days. Everybody reacts differently to a concussion. I may have symptoms and then in 5 or 6 days or whatever and go through the progression that you're going to hear tonight, and I may be absolutely fine. But you may not. It may take you longer to lose the symptoms. It may also be a situation where the symptoms come back on you. It all depends. Everybody with a concussion does not react the same. And again, I think you need to understand that as you hear what we're trying to highlight. There's actually a form that went home, which will also show on the screen at the right time. But there's actually a form that went home. That form was a 2-page form. Hopefully your children gave it to you. But if they didn't, it's online. It's on the athletic page website under documents. So you'll see it here and you'll be able to go see it anytime you want. Okay? But it's really talking not just about education aspects, but it's also talking about the actual form that this district is going to use in order to have someone return to play from a concussion. So at this time, I'd ask Ms. Jennifer Hogg to please come up. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for having me. Again, I work for Northeast Rehab, and we are the contracted services, and Christine also works for Northeast Rehab, and so that's the connection for those of you that don't understand. I have had a lot of work with this law over the summer, so I just wanted to make sure everybody understands. It's a 3-page law, but the 3 points that are going to affect you as athletes and parents that come out of it is first, it requires us, or actually it just suggests or encourages, but we're going to follow through with it, that we're educating you on concussions. We've been doing this, so this is nothing new. Anybody that's been with the district has understand, even if you played in the middle school, we already show you the CDC forms for parents and athletes, and we ask you on our authorization to sign off that you understand it. So we're already doing that part of the law. The next part of the law that would affect you is that if a student athlete is suspected of concussions, they should be removed from play immediately, whether that's by the coach, administration, athletic trainer, healthcare provider. If they're suspected on the field and they're pulled out immediately, they will not go back on the field that day. That's part of the law. We already do that as well. And we've been doing that. So that's nothing new either. But I did want you to know that it is now law. Okay? And then the third part that would affect you is that if a student athlete with a concussion, from now on will need medical clearance from a healthcare provider, which is also a written authorization to return to play, which we already do. Christine is a healthcare provider, so it's either going to be by your physician, nurse practitioner, or Christine can release them to go back to start the return to play. But what now is new, and this is the only part of this law that is new for you to know tonight, is that we now need the parent to sign off and give us release to start the return to play. And the return to play progression I'm going to review with you right now so that you understand it. And if you looked at that sheet that came home from your kids, it was on there. Okay? If I can have the next slide, please. If you'd like to read the law, actually, sorry, can you go back to the slide? Right at the bottom down here, if anybody can see that, that's the full law if you'd like to see the whole thing. Those are the 3 main points, though. Thank you very much. If you can go on. Okay, so the high school policy refers to that. There's many protocols out there, but the Timberlane High School policy for return to play follows the NHIAA return to play protocol. So when that paper comes home and we ask you to sign off on your student athlete to start the return to play, that doesn't mean they go back on the field the next day. That means that they start this process. And this is a 5-day process. Okay? They need to be asymptomatic. They cannot have any symptoms before we can start this. We won't even be sending this sheet home for you to sign off to start the return to play until they don't have symptoms anyways. But once they're asymptomatic, then we're going to start. First day is going to be just easy, low impact activity such as walking, jogging, maybe a little jogging, but mostly just low activity. If they're okay with that, they're asymptomatic with that, we can move on to the next step. The next step then becomes a little bit more of an aerobic activity. After that, the next step is we begin the non-contact skills. So it's dribbling, fielding, some things, but all non-contact. If they don't have any symptoms, a lot of times symptoms will reappear when we hit these steps. If they don't, we keep progressing the next day to the next step. So if they're okay, then we go to full contact in a practice setting. So if we're at day 4 and it's a Friday night football game, they're waiting till the next practice session. We don't put them in a game until they've gone through all of these steps, okay? And the last one is if they still remain asymptomatic, then we can put them in, the next step is to put them in a game situation. All right, these 3 things are just things that summarize it for the NHIAA. They must remain asymptomatic to progress to the next step. If symptoms reoccur, we return. They have to be asymptomatic for 24 hours, and we return to the step where they didn't have any symptoms, and we start again. Okay, and then they need to be medically checked, which Christine will be doing anyways. Next slide, please. And lastly, this was on the form as well. Just want to make sure everybody understands. All steps must be approved and guided and progressed by the athletic trainer. You cannot start this process on your own at home. It has to, Christine has to be the one to progress them step by step. Okay? And then if they do have symptoms, we go back, just as I said, we wait 24 hours without symptoms and we'll start again on the step that we knew they did not have symptoms. And for the safety of the students, the steps may not be skipped, may not be changed. You can only do 1 step a day, okay? And the trainer, as Mr. Angelo already spoke about, the trainer reserves the right to make the determination for final play. And that's it. Thank you.
Just in case there were people that did not see this form or have never seen this form, this is what was going home. This is the form that is on the athletic website under documents. This is the form. The first part of the form is informational and describes different components. And then the second part, can you show them the second page? Just go down to the, yep. And then this is where we're talking about getting signatures from your healthcare provider and from yourself. When you see the form, and thank you, Mr. Zanella, when you see the form, just so that you know, because I know this will come up, some of you go to your doctor's office and they'll sign their own piece of paper, they'll sign their own form. Our form actually says that if they don't sign our form, we must attach their signatures and their form to our form. So we're going to keep everything together for your child. I took an online course this summer on creating a respectful environment, and a lot of the topics on there dealt with bullying and hazing and harassment, all the things that we talk about a lot. The one word that kept coming to mind every time we went to a new unit here is respect. You know, I say this out loud all the time. The beauty, the strength that we have here at Timberlane, that I feel after 5 years of being here, is that we genuinely care about each other. We respect each other. I don't want any kid in this auditorium playing on a team and not feeling like they don't belong. And if you're a captain, if you're a senior, if you're a junior, if you're a leader, you should feel the same way I do. Everybody here should feel like they belong. As adults, we want our kids involved in athletics because it's a place where they can belong, where their self-esteem can grow, where they can feel a part of something. We have lifelong friends as adults that we played sports with as kids. That's what we want for you. And that's what we expect. But the world's changed a little bit. With technology, there's a lot of good. But with technology, there's a couple of things that aren't so good. And part of the thing in the course was Facebook, texting, Twitter, most things that are over my head. There's probably other stuff. But here's the deal, which you have to understand. Someone sends you a text, someone sends you an email bad-mouthing someone else or asking you to join in on the bad-mouthing, and you do. That gets printed out, and Canon will be used against you as evidence. You are now involved in something that you probably had nothing to do with. But parents, we understand that today they talk with their thumbs like we used to talk, like I'm talking right now. They type what they feel as fast as they feel it. What we need to understand is when you type that up, you own it. And when it goes viral, you own it. Be careful what you type. Be careful what you respond to. Be careful how you respond, because that will come back to haunt you at some point. If we get into any kind of bullying, hazing, harassment, anything like that, that becomes a school issue. That becomes an investigation. That becomes the principal being involved, whether it's sports, band, a classroom, or anything else. This is taken seriously. That's why I throw the word respect up there. Respect yourself. Respect each other. And make sure that we're not talking about these things, because to me it's a waste of time. If you really want to make someone feel lousy, then go somewhere else. The last topic, and I say this every year. Now, we talk about sportsmanship, and we talk about what's the goal. To me, this is the goal. Opposing players, coaches, parents, fans view our athletic department in a positive way. 2 years ago, we were celebrating a championship season, Division I sportsmanship. We have a banner hanging in the gym. We're very proud of that. This past year, we finished in 5th place. Now, some people came in and said, hey, Mr. Fantasia, what are you complaining about? It's like 20 teams. You finished 5th place. You're top 20%. What's your problem? I don't have a problem with where we finish. But I have a problem when I'm the one reading the comments. And I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of positive comments were about our coaches and about our players competing. No one really had any complaints about our coaches and our players competing. Not that we had a ton of complaints, but there were some negative complaints about our fan spectator behavior. And I'm looking at people that come to each other's games. So I'm saying to you right now, it is not okay for you to only show respect when you're playing. That is not okay. I'm looking at the adults in this room. It is not okay to be chastising officials and setting an example for the young kids, because that's not okay. And those were comments that were made, so I'm being honest. We need to understand that everything we do is a reflection of all of us. And those two things get erased, and we're back in the hunt. We're back in the hunt. The last thing I'll say about this, because it's school sports. When you're heckling someone from another school, when you're bad-mouthing some kid from another school, 10 feet away from you is that kid's mother and father, grandfather, nephew, little brother. This is not professional sports. This is school. And how do you feel as a parent when some kid is being heckled, your kid's being heckled? We are going to rise above all that. We're not dealing with that. We're better than that. I want to create an environment here where when someone else is doing it, they stick out like a sore thumb. They're not applauded. And when some other school is doing it, we can see just what they look like. It shouldn't be us. Next slide, please. Okay, just last housekeeping. We changed our scheduling program. We've gone from highschoolsports.net to digitalsports.com. Now, some of you don't care, won't be a problem at all. For me, it takes me a little longer to learn everything. But just so that you know, you can get to Timberlane, whether middle school or high school. One of the reasons I did this is because a lot of schools around the state went to digital sports. And what we're eventually doing here is the middle school schedules and the high school schedules are on this in the same place. Many of you have middle schoolers and high schoolers. I'm trying to simplify it and get it to one area so you're not running all over the place. TimberlaneAthletics.digitalsports.com is the link. That would get you right there. But if you went to our website, if you went to TimberlaneHighSchool.com and you clicked on athletics, just click the schedules icon on the left. It will get you there. And from there, all you have to do is follow fall sports. And you know, if you want the football schedule, you get the football schedule. Whatever schedule you want, you can do that. Okay? And we actually, in the documents page, they actually created a little PowerPoint so that they teach you how to use it too. If you're like me, you needed the PowerPoint. Some of you won't need it at all. Okay? Thank you very much and best of luck. Thank you.